You're listening to Question Reality. Question Reality with Priscilla Leona.
Oh, my goodness gracious. I was wondering where I was. Hey, welcome to the Question Reality Radio Show. I'm Priscilla Leona, and we are coming to you live from Los Angeles, California, 2025. I can't believe I lived that long. My party days at college, I thought there's no way I'm going to live to 30. That's why I stayed 29. Every birthday, every year, I'm 29. I'm going to be 29 forever. Okay, so for over 20 years, if you've been watching the show, I have questioned the reality of Oscar nominees, Grammy Award winners, Tony Award winners, Emmy winners, just showbiz heavyweights about working in the show business industry. And we ask our guests to tell us about the trials and the tribulations and the honest reality of working in entertainment and showbiz. And what is our goal? To inspire, to motivate, to educate, and just try to have a super fun time together while doing the interview. It's so important to me. Is this show funny? Well, we got Greg Schwim tonight, so I can say yes, it is going to be funny. So check. Highly energetic. Well, you're looking at me, right? There you go. Woo! Bouncing off the walls all the time. I feel like you got to do something. You just can't spend a second just being still. I don't know. There might be something wrong with me. I don't know, but we'll talk about that later. Now, absolutely. Now, is the show entertaining? Yeah, bet your shiny Oscar it's entertaining. So after watching our shows, I would hope that you would leave with a head full of advice and just a heart full of laughter. That's what I always hope every single week. So let's try to achieve that goal today. Booked. If you would like to be on our show, or if you know someone that's interested in being a guest on our show, go to our website, which is questionrealityshow.com. No, I'm not leaving the radio out. I know for over 20 years, it's always been radio. But initially in 2003, we started out on a cable channel. And then we went to radio. And now we're doing podcasts. So I can't leave the radio. I got to 86 the radio. If you want to come on our show, go to questionrealityshow.com, or you can email me directly at priscillaleona@yahoo.com. And it's very, very, very simple. Just your name, your email, your website, or social media links. That's it. And then you're on your way. You're on your assembly line to be vetted. The vetting is happening. It's it's an exciting process. Okay, archive pages. As I said, we've been on the air since 2003, over 20 years, and we have had all different types of professions and guests. So I would highly recommend you go to see our archive shows, and we have them on our YouTube channel at Priscilla Leona, Facebook, Question Reality Show, also Facebook at Priscilla Leona, LinkedIn, TikTok, X, Snapchat at Priscilla Leona. Every week I talk about branding, and it is so important. You are an entrepreneur when you are working in show business, plus your supplemental income at working at Denny's. But you are an entrepreneur, so you got to think about when you're starting out, branding is so important. I went to a Toastmasters meeting one time, and one of the things that I took away was the guy said, think about this. How many movies that have won Oscars have one title or two titles? What have been the best books? How many words? One word or two words? Now, you can go, I mean, Gone with the Wind is certainly more than two words, but you know, that was a while back. But try to keep it your name first if it fits, if it's applicable, or the title of your movie, book. Try to keep it. Try to understand. This is a magic, not man, but a mathematical process that they say at Mensa. At the Mensa meetings, they say this. So it's got to be true. All right. Favor, if you are enjoying our show and you're enjoying the guest that's on the show, we ask for a little itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot feeny bikini favor. And that is, please give them a little thumb. Go to their site, subscribe, follow, like something. I have a lot of celebrity friends and people behind the business, cast director, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things they're saying is that their celebrity friends, their celebrity clients, them as celebrities say, I have millions of followers, yet I will look at a post and it'll have 23 likes or maybe one comment. And they don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't know what is so hard for you to just like something. It's not going to kill you. It's okay. Give a little like. Even if you don't want to follow them, give a little like for something because you'd want people to give you likes, right? So what got to do it. It's only the right thing to do. Start your 2025 out. 2025, give a thumb. Now, very exciting. Woo! I have had this gentleman on the show before, but it was always when I was doing the radio show, so it was audio. And he's fantastic. He's so funny. I love this guy. His name is Greg Schwem. I mean, just in the name, Greg Schwem. Now, let's just see a little picture of Greg Schwem. If we can ever see a picture. Hello? Hello, picture person. Oh, there you go. Can you make it a little bigger? There you go. Greg Schwem. Isn't he cute as a little button? And a full head of hair, mind you. Woo! Love the full head of hair. Now, Greg is a stand-up comedian, a corporate humor specialist, and an author. And his website is gregschwem.com. Look at this. I'm verklempt over here. He has the branding and marketing down. Okay, here we go. Website, gregschwem.com. SCHWEM, by the way. YouTube, Greg Schwem. Instagram, Greg Schwem. Facebook, fans of Greg Schwem. It's all right. He's got his name in there. LinkedIn, Greg Schwem. X, Twitter, Greg Schwem. Perfect. People are going to find Greg Schwem. He's there. You don't even have to do anything but type his name. It's just going to pre-populate his whole life and all his social media accounts. Again, very, very important. Now, let me just give you a brief bio. Greg is a 30-year stand-up comedy veteran. He's a corporate business humor specialist and an author. And his latest book is entitled, Is There a Chance We Can See the Book? There it is. Okay. It's entitled, here, I lost my train of thought here. His latest book is entitled Turning Gut Punches into Punchlines, A Comedian's Journey Through Cancer, Divorce, and Other Hilarious Stuff. Now, see, that title in itself is funny. So now we're going to be getting some funniness. Now, here you go. Now, this picture, I just happen to know from talking to him. I believe this is maybe the Pantheon. And there's his book. Right there, little tiny book right in front. You can see it and all the people. We're going to hear a funny story about that book later. So, as a business humor specialist, and this is from his website. I don't know if you can see it very well. I don't know why I have a big, huge block on my screen, which is something new. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if you're seeing it, but it kind of makes it hard for me to read it. But here we go. So this is Greg Schwem's corporate clients. As you see, he has it broken down: insurance, telecom, municipal, I can't read, food, restaurants, transportation, technology, government, construction, architecture, hospitality, finance, real estate, and education. And if you could see some of these clients, I mean, they're huge, like Allstate, Verizon. Again, this is so small, I can barely see it. CIA. Oh, I see that. I see that hot and heavy under the government section. Food, restaurant, McDonald's, Kellogg's. I'm going to need a magnifying glass next time. Okay. Transportation, United Airlines, Southwest Airlines. Basically, if you go to his website, you will see a list of his clients, which is a very, very smart thing to do because you want to be proud. Oh, there you go. Finance, real estate, education, pharmaceutical, manufacturing, utilities, healthcare, cable, satellite, retail. So he has covered the gamut. He has run it. There you go. Oh, and what's great is that he has programs. He has customized programs. Humor is program number 1. Humor is serious business, but we should still be laughing. I love that title. Customized program 2, work, laugh, repeat. Let's see. I know there's a third one. It's coming. Third. There you go. Customized program 3, turning gut punches into punchlines. Oh, and there's 4. Customized program 4, rock, roll, and laugh your way to the top. So we're going to talk to him about the customized programs. And then, as you can see, promoting your events. He is available for hire. We were just talking about that. You can hire this genius, this comedic genius. Again, go to his website, gregschwem.com, and you will see all of this on his website. Now, as a business humor specialist that's hired, he is what's called a comedic connector. And what he does is he revolutionizes the corporate world with laughter. And do you know, very exciting, he was dubbed one of my favorite little animation comedies, King of the Hill. He was dubbed the King of the Hill in corporate comedy by the Chicago Tribune. And he's also starred in his own Drybar comedy special. Now, I don't know what a Drybar comedy special is, so I got to remember to ask him that. Yeah, there you go. Here's a quote. Surprisingly, Greg Schwim is more than just a comedian, event meeting planners. He is a source of inspiration and positivity for the corporate world. With this intention, his humor and insights bring people together and remind us to always find joy in our work. Business humor speaker Greg Schwem is dedicated to making the business world a little brighter, one laugh at a time. So don't miss out on the opportunity to have him at your next corporate event and experience firsthand the power of laughter in the workplace. Book Greg Schwem today. And we got to find out who wrote that because I don't have it down there. But again, he's a motivational corporate comedian and business humor speaker, perfect for events. Now, as I was saying, some of the people that he has appeared in concerts with and for are you ready? Oh my God, I was blown away. Celine Dion, which is one of my favorite singers of all time, an idol for me, Keith Urban, Jay Leno, who I met personally, Leanne Rimes, Kenny Loggins, Pat Benatar, Julio Iglesias, Huey Lewis, and Casey and the Sunshine Band. Oh my God. Now, who doesn't know these people? You know these people. This is who he has opened up for. Some of. So there you go. You don't hire any schleps. There you go. Why choose Greg Schwem? Well, Schwem. Well, there you go. You already know. Now, some of the reviews, I'm just going to read 3. The first one is from Meetings Today magazine. And they said, Schwim offers a unique opportunity for meeting and event planners to give a memorable experience to their attendees. Another review from Parade magazine said, makes Fortune 500 companies laugh at themselves. And the last review is from Giant IBM, said, more than a comedian, he's truly a brand ambassador. So I don't know what else you need. If you're looking to infuse your corporate event with laughter and inspiration and just a sense of shared joy, yes, question mark, yes, exclamation point. Look no further than Greg Schwem. He is the motivational comedian and business humor specialist who turns everyday corporate life into hilarious, engaging experience that resonates with everyone. So, my God, what else do you want? If you're going to spend your dollars, spend them wisely. Hire Greg. I'm going to hire him. We already talked about this before the show. I said, I can't find a comedian. He said, even though I'm in Chicago, I could come to LA. So that might be on the back burner, but it might be happening. Here you go. So without further ado, let's welcome him to the show. Welcome, Greg Schwem. Woo! Where are you? You're here somewhere.
I am here. Yes, now I'm on the other side of you.
Yes.
How'd that happen?
God. I feel physically and mentally exhausted.
I'm exhausted, and I haven't done anything yet.
I know. And your credentials are amazing. I can't believe it. Now, I have this wonderful question for you because a lot of people get confused between, they want to know what's the difference between corporate comedy and comedy club comedy.
Yeah.
Can you tell us this? Can you demystify?
Yes. Well, okay. I can tell you what it is from an audience's perspective and also from a comedian's perspective. So if you're an audience member, you go to a comedy club and you're expecting to see comedians. That's what you paid to see. That's what that's how you decided to spend your evening. When you're at a business meeting, let's suppose you work for a company, they have maybe a 3-day offsite meeting in Orlando or Phoenix or Los Angeles or someplace like that. You're not expecting to see a comedian for the most part. You're expecting to see a bunch of speakers talking about different subjects in the corporate world and so forth. And all of a sudden I come out there, and that's a little different. So you're not in a comedy club setting. You're, as an audience member, you're not looking at a comedian in a comedy club setting. You're looking at him on a stage in a big ballroom, surrounded by screens and company logos and so forth. And you're like, oh, and it might be 9 o'clock in the morning. It might be 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So you're like, okay, and this guy's supposed to make me laugh. Interesting. Now that's what you're looking at, and that's my table setup. I mean, so think of it, when I'm a comedian and I walk out at a comedy club, I'm looking at an audience that came to see, maybe not necessarily me, but they came to see live stand-up comedy. I come out in a corporate setting, and these people, sometimes I feel like I'm interrupting their work because they are at work. It is a work day. They are away from the office, so they are probably, but maybe one ear is still back at the office. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they're always got their phone with them, checking to see what's going on. And I have to come out and divert their attention and let them know that it's okay to take a break from their office environment and just have some fun, laughing at themselves, laughing at their company, laughing at their industry. And that's what I do as a corporate humor speaker.
So when you are hired by these companies, how much research do you do in order to incorporate the humor? And they might be saying, why do I need humor incorporated in my morning? So
yeah, well, the companies that do hire me, they have already reached that decision. And, you know, it is very refreshing to hear companies say, we just need to laugh. We need to lighten up. We need to not take ourselves so seriously. I think we're in a wave of that right now. And a lot of it is what's going on in the world. You know, serious things. And by the way, you're in Los Angeles, and I know that you're in downtown LA, but for your listeners who are out there, just so you know, even those back in the Midwest are certainly praying for what's going on out there and hoping you get the help that you need. That aside, though, so as far as the research that I do, I do spend a good amount of time on a company's website. I talk to their marketing people or whoever hired me. Usually it's a team that hires me and an event planning team. And it's really important that I talk to them, not only to get a sense of what they do as an organization. I want to get a sense of what's going on in the company. I want to get a sense of what kind of a year they've had. Has it been good? Has it been bad? Have they had layoffs? Have they, that's the bad. The good, what new product are you pushing? Are you excited about it? Tell me about it. Because all of that goes into my presentation. I want everybody to relax. I don't want them to think for one moment. I don't want to be holding their breath thinking, what's this guy going to say? And is he going to talk about these taboo subjects that we specifically asked him not to talk about? Of course, I'm not going to do that. There are comedians who would. There are comedians who, if you say, don't say X, they would say, well, that's going to be to themselves. That's going to be my opening line. X.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you ask them what is taboo to talk about? Or do you?
Yeah, maybe not like that, because I don't want to for 1 minute give them the impression that, he just asks us about taboo subjects. Does that mean he's going to talk about taboo? Do we have to rein this guy in? What don't
you want me to talk about?
Right. No, it's important though. I do ask that because
I hope so.
Yeah, there are subjects out there that not all companies are doing great. Some are and some are not. Some are having having a meeting. Maybe they can't afford it, but they have to. They have to do it to instill morale in their employees, and it's going to take a big chunk out of their bottom line, but they know it's necessary. And I want to make sure that when I'm on, that I want the audience to think, okay, this was worth it. I want the top brass to think it was worth it to hire that guy because he's making everybody feel good.
What if a company, I can't imagine this ever happening, but it just popped into my head. What would you do if a company hired you and said, Greg, we're having everyone come into the auditorium. We need you to deliver the message that everyone's being laid off.
I would refuse that.
Good. I would hope so. But a lot of people go in.
Did we just lose some viewers? I was going to hire this guy to drop the hammer.
No, but you never know that. A lot of times people say to me that they get very nervous when a company says, okay, we're having a meeting in the auditorium, because they think it could be an announcement of a layoff, or it could be something that is devastating to hear, and they get really scared. So I would imagine that some people coming in to see you are thinking, oh my God, what's he going to do? And they're scared.
Yeah.
I don't know. No.
Believe it or not, Priscilla, I actually did do a show that was kind of along those lines. It was for a major telecommunications provider. And it wasn't what I walked in. I didn't know really what was going on, but they said to me, I was on at 11 o'clock in the morning, and they said at 10 o'clock, this chief technology officer is going to talk, and then he's going to open it up to some questions. So he spoke, and I was in the back, and then they opened up the questions, which is not always a good thing to do if you don't know what the questions are. But a lot of the questions that were being asked, they all had the same theme, and the theme was kind of like, how does this impact me? And the more this went on, the more I was starting to realize something's up here, and it's not good. But I'm just gonna pretend. I'm just gonna go up and do my job And I'm not going to make any reference to that because I don't know what it's about, but I have an inkling what it's about, and it's not great. And sure enough, that afternoon, this company laid off more than 10,000 people.
Oh my God.
And I guess the way I look at that is at least, and I'm sure a lot of them were in that room. And I guess the way I look at it is I hope that at least before they got that news that they were being laid off, I hope they at least got some laughs.
Yeah. Or they just really remembered your face.
Yeah.
You better hope you don't run into them sitting on the platform someway.
Right.
In Chicago. But yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just thought about that because a lot of people do tell me that they get scared when these things happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I would look forward to it. Okay. So this book of yours, I want to talk about this. It's your latest book. So I mean, I guess you've written. There it is. There it is.
Just happen to have a copy.
I don't have a copy, and I need a written autographed copy. I'm gonna have to buy it and ship it. Okay, it's called "Turning Gut Punches into Punchlines: A Comedian's Journey Through Cancer, Divorce, and Other Hilarious Stuff," which in itself is a very funny title. Mm-hmm. So you say it's a hilarious yet insightful and inspirational read about finding humor in the face of personal challenges and finding your best self in the process. So tell me about this title and how did you come up with it? Mm-hmm. I need to know.
Yeah, well, the title kind of speaks for the subtitle kind of speaks for itself when you hear the words divorce and cancer. So yes, that's been those two things were a part of my life very recently within the last 2 years. This was very. My marriage ended officially in the summer of 2024, and I had been diagnosed with colon cancer 4 months before that. So,
what happened with the colon cancer?
Well,
you're still living. That's good.
Absolutely nothing happened with it. I had an operation. They got the tumor, and they said, "You're cured." Now I'm going back. I go back for screening, and I have another one of those coming up in a couple of weeks. And obviously a little apprehension there, but my health is great. And it's actually, when something like that happens, Priscilla, you do tend to look at life a little bit differently, and you start thinking about, maybe things that I haven't done that maybe I should have done, or things I would want to do. Originally, the divorce came first, and I had set out to write a book, and I thought it was just going to be a series of funny stories about divorce later in life. My marriage lasted 29 years. So, it was all, I was married for a long time.
That's how long I've been married.
Okay.
That might be a harbinger. All right. Wow.
I hope not.
It's amazing because a very good friend of mine just texted me last week and said her son-in-law, 42, was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. He wouldn't go to the doctor. All the signs were there. And I said to her, did he not even take a Cologuard test, which is the easiest, safest, most private thing you can do in your home? I mean, well, it's private until it's private until you have to go to the UPS facility and drop it off. But up until then, it's very private. And I feel so sad. And then another person had no symptoms, Greg, at all. Turns out he does the Cologuard test, and they said, you got to come in right away. We need to do a colonoscopy. 7 polyps removed. So I just think it's safe for you to just go. And what the heck if it doesn't happen? I don't think most men like the anal probe. But, I don't think women, I don't know. I don't think anybody likes this. They got to come up with a better way, people. What's going on with our medical dollars? But you're so lucky
I am. And that led to the book sort of taking a little bit of a twist there, but also it became a book. Not just, it went from being a funny book about being divorced, if you can find humor in that, to a book about laughing at other challenges, and also showing that there's still a lot of life left to live out there. And I kind of went on a sort of my own little journey about it, just meeting people and interviewing people for the book, and writing chapters about all over the world. Really, I traveled extensively. I when I'm not doing corporate gigs, I do a lot of work on cruise ships, which do take you to some exotic places. And I had a lot of time to not only write, but to just observe and to talk to people from different countries, and people who were on vacations, and some who were doing kind of the same thing that I was doing, just kind of saying, hey, I've got one life to live and I'm going to live it. And it was just incredibly refreshing.
How did you write this book? Because you said you got the divorce in 2024. It's only 2025. How did you pump out a book in 1 year?
Well, yeah, actually, the divorce was final in 2024. So we made the decision to part ways in November of 2022. And I started kind of sketching out, again, at the time it was just supposed to be about divorce. So I started sketching out some ideas probably within those first 3 months and afterwards. And I wrote a good chunk of it. And then, one thing led to another. And then you think, okay, I need more chapters and I need this. And then other things would come up. And I thought, well, that would make a good chapter for the book. And then I got the diagnosis, and then I thought, okay, well, now we're going to have to give it a slightly different tone, I think.
How do you, being a comedian, I imagine there's lots of humor in your book. How did you get your ex-wife to agree to write about her? Or is it a fictitious person? It can't be, because you're writing about yourself. How does one do that?
One doesn't need to ask.
Oh, you don't?
No, not really. I mean, this was not. But you know what, Priscilla? I did not write about her. I made a very conscientious effort not to. This is not and I mentioned that early on in the book. It was not a chance to air my dirty laundry. The book was not a tell-all. Okay. There's nothing good comes from something like that. I don't think this was a book about my journey, and there's plenty of other people to write about in my journey. Keeping my personal the personal issues out of it.
So you're probably, when you're talking about the divorce, you're probably talking more about what your feelings were, how you felt, and made you feel.
And you think about that, there's all sorts of. I mean, you're all of a sudden you have a whole new life, and it's not necessarily what you think it's going to be. There are parts of it. I think people, and you have friends, I'm sure, just like I do. I think when people make the decision to get divorced, when it's done, it's like a sense of, well, I'm free from this, and I'm free from this, and I'm free from that, and now I'm going to be able to focus on just me. And it's very easy to think about something like that. And then the reality sets in, and you realize it's not all that. You have to learn different things. I lost a lot of friends. I had to learn or relearn how to do things that I hadn't done in 29 years. And those are the things you don't think about. However,
cooking, boiling an egg, doing your own laundry. There's lots
I'm getting
of
good
stuff.
at that. But that's where the humor comes in, Priscilla. That's where the funny is, I think, is just the fact that someone at my age all of a sudden has to reinvent themselves and relearn to do things. And if you're a comedian, your mind is always thinking comedically. And the more I thought about those things, and just as I was living, I'm like, geez, I got to write that down. Expand.
A lot of relationships did not survive COVID.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the deterioration of your relationship was COVID related? Because I'm talking, I was blown away by how many People got divorced, broke up. I watched Forensic Files, killed. There were lots of things that what do you?
I mean, I think I would say that was a contributing factor, not the only one.
Because you're up on each other all the time.
Yes, exactly, and that's a lot of relationships did not survive just because couples all of a sudden had to spend 24 hours with one another.
Yeah,
that is long. I'm not really gonna spend a lot of time talking about everything that went into it. I mean, obviously, it was a contributing factor, but just like any divorce, it's never just one thing,
right?
That sets it off. There's a lot of things in there, and and part of it is admitting, I think, that you could have done things differently.
Well, did you find material for your comedy? Because it says one of the questions you wanted to talk about was the state of comedy today. Has it changed since COVID, or even in the past year? Yeah.
As far as I'll answer that in two parts. Now, as far as finding humor in my divorce and comedy, that's a tricky subject because I think you do.
I see so many comedians doing that.
Yes, I know, but I think it's you have to frame it correctly. I think. I mean, obviously, comedians we're always looking for topics that resonate with a large amount of the audience.
Right.
One would be divorce. If considering 50% of marriages are about that end in divorce, you figure, okay, if I talk about divorce, at least half the crowd, or might be like, I can relate to that.
Right.
That's pretty good odds. However, what audiences do not want, I don't think anyway, they don't want to watch a comedian who's going to whine about divorce, because that's not what they came to hear.
Right.
And they also, you have to be a little tricky or a little careful that you don't come off as very bitter, especially when you're a male comedian. When you're a male comedian and you come as very bitter towards your ex-wife, you can lose a lot of the audience, particularly women. You have to be, so for me.
Today it's like that, but
maybe not today, but
I mean, I used to watch, I'm a huge, fan of comedy. So when you would go back and you would watch Eddie Murphy, I forget what his album was, but I used to play that thing all the time. Raw with his red leather pants. Yeah. Oh my God, there was no comedy back then. Even Steve Martin, all the old comedians, they would bash their wives, their girlfriends. I mean, it was
and now,
you can't do it anymore.
Yeah, it's very comedy is very trigger word and trigger phrase driven. I mean, I did a show. I headlined Zany's Comedy Club in Chicago last a week ago Monday. So just a week ago tonight, and I had worked up a bit that I was doing about, and I'm about as clean and non-offensive a comic as I think there is out there. That's why I'm able to work corporate gigs. But I'd come up with a bit about how Gen Zs will buy products based on a label, like if it says all natural or plant based or something, they will glom onto that. And then I said this wasn't a product, but I said another one that gets them all excited is women-owned businesses. And the joke was, I think it's great that, women-owned businesses. It's not easy to own a business, but I said at the end of the day, I just want my latte. I'm not ordering it and saying, and make sure no male hands touch it. Okay. Right. So that was the joke. First time I tried it. And somebody said to me afterwards, she brought a bunch of her friends and she said, there was one joke that some of my friends didn't like. I go, let me guess. And this was a 55-minute set, by the way. I go, the women-owned business joke. And she goes, yes. And I go, see, now the problem was they heard the term women-owned business and they just assumed I was going to bash business. And that joke did not do that in the least. But I think that is one thing, getting back to your question about since COVID, and people are back, watching live comedy. But I do believe that sometimes audience members will hear a word or a phrase and they just assume you're going to go down some road that is talk about a subject that is offensive to them, and they tune you out. What they don't do is they don't bother to hear the joke. They don't bother to hear the setup and the punchline. And I think if they did, they would maybe take back their comments about that. Right. And I think that's especially true in the corporate world. I've had that happen to me sometimes. And I just want to say, no. You have to wait. You have to give me that chance. I think you're seeing a lot of that since live performances returned.
Well, I want to play the video. Hopefully it's ready to go. I watched you on YouTube. It was 33 minutes and 25 seconds. And I don't know what cruise ship you were on, but you were on a cruise ship. And about 20 minutes in, or 18 minutes in rather, you came up with you incorporated comedy, clips from comedy from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. And I thought, what a brilliant idea, because I too have noticed how comedy has changed. I mean, my husband is a big take my wife please and a Youngman kind of lover of comedy. He also loves Laurel and Hardy, the Three Stooges. I don't find that funny at all. I never have. It's not my cup of tea. But I love how you started the 50s. You did Lucy. And then the 60s, I think you did Don Rickles, maybe.
I believe I did. I may have done Lenny Bruce in the 1960s, and then.
No, because I'll show you.
Okay, let's take a look.
Yeah, no, and you were talking about 50s. Lucy was putting candy down her shirt and blah blah blah, and then in the 60s, Don Rickles was talking about Dom DeLuise. And
yes, that's okay, right.
And in the 70s, you referenced Mary Tyler Moore and Chuckles the Clown. And that was funny. And then the 80s, you did Jerry Seinfeld, right?
And the Where's the Beef commercial.
What was that? The 80s was Where's the Beef?
The Wendy's commercial.
The Wendy's commercial. And then 90s, you did Jerry Seinfeld.
The Soup Nazi.
The Soup Nazi. God, I don't remember what you did for 2000. It
was the Office episode.
The Office, yes.
Yeah,
what he said.
HR
That's
training.
what she said.
Right.
Okay, and then you get into the 2000s, and oh God, who did you reference?
I showed clips from Tracy Morgan having to apologize.
Tracy Morgan, absolutely, which I think is disgusting. And then because I'm a huge Ricky Gervais. Oh my God, I think this man is the funniest comedian next to Greg Schwem on the planet. I swear to God, there's nothing he could say that would ever offend me. I am not a person that's offended by any type of humor. I'm a fluffy, round snowflake. I don't care. Bring the fat jokes on. I love it. Short jokes, bald jokes. I mean, that is funny, and I've always found that funny. So I loved. We're going to start this clip with Ricky Gervais saying, "Oh God, I can't remember verbatim what he said, but he said something like, just because it's not funny,
just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right.
And I thought, oh my God, that is so perfectly said. So we're going to pick this clip up with him saying that, because I think that is, you can't say anymore. And then we're just going to play about 3 minutes. And when we come back, maybe you can continue with that. Yeah. So, video man, can you play Greg's clip of starting with Ricky
Not to joke about all the bad things, that's a waste, because that's exactly what we should joke about. Just because you're offended, it doesn't mean you're right, you know? It's...
All right. A lot going on in that video, right? Yeah. So now let me kind of explain why I chose the clips that I did. I started in the 1950s. That Lucille Ball clip, and I know some of you probably are dating your age and so forth, but by knowing what that is, but Lucille Ball was really was one of the people who pushed the envelope of comedy. First of all, being a woman, and taking center stage. Just the fact that she was shoving candy down her shirt. Right? You didn't, between her and Gracie Allen, they were doing things that you didn't see women do in the 1950s. And that translated over into the 1960s. Now, the 1960s, you saw that clip of Don Rickles. I noticed in this audience that everybody got a little bit tight when he was talking. He was making fun of Dom DeLuise, mostly about his weight. Now, you know who was laughing the hardest at that was Dom DeLuise. But in this audience, it's almost like you guys were a little afraid to laugh at something that personal. Let's move on to the 1970s. I chose those clips. Now we're getting into clips and sketches that I'm not sure could be made today. The Tim Conway old man sketch that used to always crack up Harvey Korman. Okay, Tim Conway played a completely senile old man. And it was one of the most popular sketches in the Carol Burnett show. And then we flipped to the Mary Tyler Moore episode. Now, I don't know if anybody ever saw the Chuckles Bites the Dust episode. What that was Chuckles was a clown, and he was crushed to death. He dressed up as a peanut, and he was crushed to death in a parade by an elephant. And everybody in the cast couldn't stop making jokes about it. Mary just thought it was just horribly wrong that they were doing that, and then it got to the memorial service, and she's the one who couldn't stop laughing at every single reference. Brilliant episode. We moved into the 1980s. You saw the Wendy's commercial, the Where's the Beef episode. I, for one, don't think that commercial would be made today. I think that they would test market that, and somebody would say, no, we can't do that. We're making fun of the elderly. We're making fun of people who are hard of hearing. We're making fun of people with early onset dementia. The woman on the left was answering a bun, for God's sakes, okay? And yet, for those of you who remember, Wendy's was a hamburger chain that was at death's door before that commercial came out. They were getting crushed by McDonald's and Burger King. After that commercial, Wendy's sales rose 34%. That commercial might be the only reason that Wendy's is around today. That phrase, "Where's the beef?" became a national catchphrase. Wendy's owes that commercial to their success. We move on to the 1990s. You were all laughing at the famous Soup Nazi episode. Do you think, though, if today in a writer's room somebody said, I have a great idea for a character, it's called the Soup Nazi, do you think that would pass muster? No, absolutely not. Then we get into the 2000s with The Office. I saw how hard you were laughing, my man, at that one. Okay, but here's the thing about The Office. Even the writers of The Office today, if you interview them, they say some of the sketches and some of the plots that they came up with, they would not be comfortable doing today, or they don't think that they would pass muster. And now we have humors to where it is today, where you have comedians apologizing for a bit that they did on stage that offended not the whole audience, but one person in the audience. Why is that? How did we get from Lucille Ball doing this and Dom DeLuise making fun of people who were overweight to what you saw at the very end? What we're doing, unfortunately, is we're trying to define what is and isn't funny. We're trying to answer the question, what is funny? And I hate to tell you this, there is no answer to that question. There is no right answer. And yet we're trying to, I don't know what's funny. I don't. I write jokes, and I hope that you laugh at them. You know who else does it the same way? Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld does not know what is and isn't going to work when he writes a joke. He just hopes that it works. But what's happening is we are so into trying to answer this question that we are narrowing the definition of what is and isn't funny until finally there's very little left. I want to share with you a quote. I mentioned that I do a lot of shows for big corporations, and I was negotiating with a food contractor for a show, and they looked at my contract and they said, we would like you to insert this into your contract. Artists will under no circumstances be profane or perform material that is objectively offensive or unwelcome based on race, color, religion, sex, pregnancy, national origin, ancestry, citizenship, age, marital status, disability, veteran status, sexual orientation, or gender identity. What's left after that?
Not much.
But that's what they wanted. Right? That's what I finally said I will do it, but I said, who's the cop? Who's the one that's going to actually make that decision? And they even could not answer that question.
See that? Oh my God. Do you know I said what's left before you said what's left?
Right.
I was like, what's left? You can't. There's nothing else that's funny. That is everything.
My book, the title alone probably violated 3 of those demands. I mean, because I joke in the book about age, about marital status. I can't even remember half the quote right there, but right there, I mean, I wrote a 300-page book, but I'm glad you pulled that clip, Priscilla, because and that was shot. That presentation was something that I created specifically for the cruise line industry, because they sometimes want these things called enrichment lectures, in which people come on and they talk about some of the ports they're going to visit, or cloud formations, or volcanoes, or something. They're experts in things like that, whales. I thought, as long as I'm a comedian and I'm making you laugh, why not actually put one of these together for days when people are at sea, and give people a sense of where humor is. I think that's one of the things about when you're a comedian and you're on a cruise ship, you're living with the passengers, and they're very intrigued by comedians. They're always coming up to me and asking questions about the business. And I like that. I could talk comedy all day long. Yeah. It's my favorite thing to talk about. But I thought, as long as you're so interested in what I do, why don't I take the time to educate you a little bit about what I do and about where the whole business of humor is going. And I have started to take some of that and put it into my corporate act too, because I think in the corporate world, there is even more of a sense of, we can't say this, we can't say that, we better not do this, we better not go down that way. There's been huge, companies have had huge meltdowns with commercials and marketing campaigns, Nike and Bud Light and so forth, when they were just maybe trying to add a little humor or maybe something a little different, and they had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah, this whole cancel culture. Companies are scared to even, make commercials.
Right,
and what I liked was that you also talked about, and I would highly recommend that the audience go to your YouTube channel and watch the whole entire thing. You were talking about a couple of our most funny comedians, our funniest comedians, Tracy Morgan, Steve Harvey, and others who won't even do comedy anymore.
They won't do stand-up. Yeah.
Stand-up comedy anymore. How, isn't that terrible? I mean, I recently discovered a guy. Now, I did not know he existed. It was completely by accident. And I'm going to mess his last name up. He's a comedian named Nate Bergansky.
Oh, Bergansky. Yeah. He's killing it. Yeah. Everybody knows
him.
Yeah.
Because even though I like a little nasty humor in my comedy set, he does, from what I saw, I don't know what else he does, he is able to do a completely clean set. At least he did for this special. I don't know what else.
No, he does.
But I thought, how the heck did he do that? He didn't offend anything. I was thinking, okay, women, he didn't offend women, he didn't offend men, he didn't offend children. How in the hell does a comedian do that, where they can do a set, it's funny, but not offend anyone? Do you find that in your sets you go, God, that is really
well, he does it. What he does is he offends himself. Nate it's very self-deprecating. He talks about his wife a lot, but he portrays her as the smart one and him as the dumb one. And that is the way to go, I think. And I do the same thing. I think people, if you can make fun of yourself, people will drop their guard and they will see themselves in you. Okay. Yeah. But they're not the the focus of the joke. But that doesn't mean that they won't say, oh my God, I know exactly what he's talking about. I've done that too. But the fact that they aren't the subject of it, they don't feel like they're being put on the spot. That is how he gets away with it.
What should I say, Greg? Because I use self-deprecating humor. I always have. I always will. But I have people that say, oh, you shouldn't say that about yourself. Oh, don't feel bad about yourself. And I'm like, I don't feel bad about myself. What the hell are you talking? Why? Yeah. But it makes me feel uncomfortable because they're offended that I was using self-deprecating humor. I don't know what to say.
I think the best way is I know me better than you know me, and I'm perfectly happy. So there's something else you should be worrying about than me. I'm fine.
Yeah, they get a couple, like I'm Irish and I can't even drink alcohol. I am like a disgrace to the Irish race. I drink one shot and I'm not kidding. And I tell them, oh my God, I just finished 2 Snicker bars today, or whatever I'm talking about. I mean, I'm talking about real shit. Like if I'm saying it happened and that's the way I feel. I'm not doing a comedy set. I'm not a comedian. I'm just talking about, and it makes me go, oh, you shouldn't say that about yourself. I'm like, why? It's true.
Right. Yeah.
And then they make me feel bad that I made them feel bad about what I'm talking about. And I thought, I got to ask a comedian about this.
No, I mean, I call people out on that. It's not up to them to judge what makes you happy. You know, if you're happy laughing at yourself, then that's all that matters.
That's the funniest thing you can laugh at is yourself.
Right. So why does anybody else care that you're doing it? And I have.
What's wrong with them?
Exactly. I have kind of gotten into that a little bit. I mean, I'm not on stage, but off stage. And one of the things I say to people that, we live in a free country and we have a right to express ourselves and so forth. And what I've always said is, if you don't like something that I said at a show, you are perfectly within your right to walk up to me and say, I didn't like this bit, okay? However, I am perfectly within my right to ignore you or to walk away from you. Right. Because that doesn't mean I one of the analogies I give sometimes in my corporate acts is if you go to a restaurant and you don't like the way the meal is prepared, maybe you'll never eat at the restaurant again. That's your way of saying, I don't like it. What you don't do, you don't march into the kitchen and demand the chef just keep remaking the meal until you like it. Never mind that he's made this dish 10,000 times and maybe his restaurant is known for that dish. He's not going to change it because of one person. And this goes back to what I was saying is trying to answer that question, which you saw in the clip about we're trying to answer what isn't funny, and we'll drive ourselves crazy doing that. You don't like me, you don't like my act, don't come see me. Don't laugh at my joke. If nobody laughs at the joke that I do, I will get the message real quickly that it's not funny or there's something wrong with it, and I need to fix it or just
different strokes for different folks. Yes. And I swear that we as a society have become so PC. You can't say this, you can't say that, and yet I know that people want to laugh at shit that's not PC, but they're just so scared they don't want to be called this or that or this or that. And I tell my friends right away, I cannot remember your damn pronoun. I'm not saying it. I only know 2. He, she, him, her. I can't do it. Don't get mad at me. I'm just not going to remember. And I feel that if you tell people that right away, that they're aware of it, and then they can make a decision. Either they can accept it or they don't. So it's like, what the hell?
Right.
I'm not doing it. I'm too old to be learning new shit. I'm just going to let my old shit ride. And that's just it. That's the way I am. And you can take it or leave it. All right. So let's talk about this, Greg. What's the most awkward thing that's ever happened to you while performing a corporate gig? I've been dying to ask you.
Oh boy, corporate one, huh? Yeah, I'll give you one. Okay, well, yeah. Okay, now I'm thinking of a couple. Okay, I talked earlier about about knowing what was going on ahead of time. All right, trying to get a sense of the good and the bad. And I always send out a questionnaire, and I always ask. After I read the questionnaire, I kind of ask them to drill down. So I was working for, what the hell? I'll just mention the name. It doesn't matter. I've done a bunch. It was for IBM. Okay, now IBM's got a ton of different divisions. I've done about 4 or 5 shows for IBM, different divisions.
Yeah.
But there was this one years ago, and they had told me about they said you should bring up The Matrix. And I like the movie The Matrix. He's like, no, The Matrix. And they went on to explain it was some sort of a hiring process that they did and so forth. And they're just like, just mention The Matrix. And, everybody it drives people crazy. Everybody will laugh at that. And I'm like, okay. That's fine. Matrix. And I'd seen the movie, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can put some movie references in there, some Keanu Reeves, that kind of thing, and do so. I've written 4 or 5 jokes about The Matrix. So I'm doing the show. We're like 15 minutes in. It's going great. And then, and then I start in on The Matrix, and I am not kidding. The minute I even mentioned the word, I didn't even get to the jokes. I could feel, just like how you're looking right now. I could feel
read the room.
The audience just tense up. And the thing is, I didn't know enough about this to really, they just told me, mention it and people will like it. No, that was not the case. No one liked it, whatever it was. And now I'm into it, and I have to do some jokes. And the show just went down in flames after that. And I will be honest with you, I was pissed when I got off stage, because I felt a little bit like I'd been hung out to dry. And maybe that's a little strong. And they apologized afterwards. They said, boy, we're sorry. We didn't think it would go over. We thought people would get a kick out of that. But the damage had been done. But I will say it was a learning. It was a very good learning experience for me, because now when I go in, and and when I do the questionnaire and so forth, and they say you should talk about this, I ask a few more questions. I go, are you absolutely sure? Is this just something that the 4 of you think is funny on the call, or does the whole audience think it's funny? Because I don't want that to happen again.
Yeah, you bombed so bad you thought, I'm going to go into accounting. That's what I'm thinking. You're like, accounting's safe now. Let's talk about some of your tech troubles. Now, what's the worst difficulty you faced during a live show, and how did you turn it into a punchline? But now let's go from corporate to stand-up comedy on that.
Well, corporate, because corporate, I do use technology. I use PowerPoint, Keynote. So, I'm tied to that. So obviously, if something goes wrong, I have to riff a little bit. That's not easy to do. So we do a very, very lengthy rehearsal. And to the point where when I come in, I am focused to the point of probably being annoying. But I'm annoying because I want everything to work. It's important for me.
I'm annoying too in general.
You want to obviously give your best product out there, put your best product out there, and that involves everything running smoothly.
That's right. What about some travel tales? Now, what's the funniest travel mishap you've experienced on your way to a gig?
I was at a wedding in San Antonio, and Dallas, and I had a show in San Diego that evening. So they knew that. And I said, I'm going to leave the wedding. You know, I'm going to go to the wedding. I'm not going to go to the reception. The flight leaves at like 2:30. I've got time on my side because it's a 2-hour. I'm going to gain 2 hours out there, and I should be landing around 5:30 or so. And they're like, well, you're on after dinner. That's plenty of time. We'll have them pick you up, and you can just come right to the hotel, and the event's in the hotel. And they were fine with this. This was for a big accounting firm. Well, obviously the flight is late by a lot. And they're like, don't worry. I texted them right when the flight took off. I said, here's when it's going to land. They go, we're going to slow down dinner for you. We're going to do some speeches that we were going to do after you. We'll move them to before you. It's all going to be good. I changed clothes in the taxi cab. When we landed, I changed my clothes and I literally walked through the back doors of the hotel into the backstage area and on stage. And I think that was all in the space of about 2.5 minutes.
Oh,
so
my God.
Forget the tech rehearsal. Luckily, I think this might have been before I started using PowerPoints and so forth, but it turned out okay. The audience never knew, but it was the most harrowing.
Oh, I bet.
Pre-show.
Have you ever had an audience member become part of the act in an unexpected way? Like they jumped up on stage and said, "Hi!"
Yeah, no. Well, no. I mean, obviously, everybody in comedy clubs gets, will get that person who does want to be a part of the act.
Yeah.
Corporate is different because I think people in a corporate setting, remember, they are surrounded by their peers.
Yeah.
Often their boss is in the audience or their immediate superior. So you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be that guy that makes an idiot out of him or herself and then has to hear about it the next morning. So no, that's the one thing. I mean, corporate comedy has its challenges, a lot of challenges that club comedy doesn't have. But one of the things that I don't have to deal with when I'm doing corporate shows is I think people getting out of line.
So nothing when you were doing stand-up, there wasn't anything that
happened? Gosh, when I was doing stand-up, yeah, there was, how much time do we have?
Oh my gosh. Wow. A streaker?
Nothing like that. I had I had a bunch of, let me think here now. I did do a show in front of a bunch of Marines that had just gotten back from the war in the Middle East after like 3 months of no liquor, no fun, no women, no sex, no nothing, little pent up energy. And
they come to a comedy club?
They came to a comedy club. Yes. Not a comedy club, comedy night. And it was, and I mean, this was in Destin, Florida, which is where Eglin Air Force Base is. So the whole audience, I mean, that's who they catered to, was military personnel. So that was the whole audience. And I was not their cup of tea. That is for sure. They were like, let me get up there and tell a joke,
Wow. Yeah, I'd expect that. What's the strangest request that you received from a corporate client? Really bizarre.
Yeah. I think, and I've had this happen a couple of times. They want to introduce me as not a comedian. They want to introduce me as like a consultant, somebody who's come in and has looked at the organization, and they want me to say things that get more and more outrageous about the company. And then eventually the audience figures out I'm a comedian. And I tried it once and it did not go well. I've heard of people who do this, but for me, they believed it. They believed the spewing. and it made them uncomfortable. And I've always, and that's the last thing I want. And as we talked about earlier in the program, I don't want audience members to ever feel uncomfortable. And now, on the rare occasion that I still get that request, my response is comedy is hard enough to do when people know you're a comedian. It is one of the toughest jobs in the world. It is to do what we do. It's one of the most fulfilling and gratifying jobs, but it is one of the most difficult jobs out there. So I always say comedy is hard enough to do when people know you're a comedian. When they don't know you're a comedian, it just makes it much more difficult. And I just don't really want to be a part of that.
Yeah. Well, now you've worked with, you've had many celebrity encounters. I'm going to read the list. I'll read the whole entire list. So decide which one you want. But out of all the big names that you work with, what is the funniest backstage story? So keep it clean, Greg.
Oh, yes.
All right, so Celine Dion, love her. I'm obsessed with her. Keith Urban, Jay Leno, Leanne Rimes, Kenny Loggins, Pat Benatar, Julio Iglesias, Huey Lewis, Katie and the Sunshine Band. So what I'd love to hear, obviously, Celine Dion, but Jay Leno would be good. Or
I'll give you two. Neither of those, but I'll give you two. Okay. Celine Dion, by the way, I never met. You know, you don't always meet these people.
You don't always meet them.
They've got their pre-show routine, and Celine's was to do vocal exercises, and she just didn't want to be around it. And I understand that, as much as I would have liked to have met her. Because like, what's she like? What's she like? Well, I don't know.
Right.
I opened, so there were two. One, Alabama. I opened for Alabama, and great country band. It was kind of the height of their popularity, and I remember the lead guitar player, who I believe has since passed away. I didn't realize this, but he was watching my set from the wings. Big comedy fan, and I came off stage. And he was telling me how funny it is. And he was just waiting to tell me the most disgusting Michael Jackson joke I have ever heard. And he couldn't wait. He was just like cackling as he was telling this. It was like, as soon as the comedian gets off, I got to tell him this. I'm like, dude, you're Alabama. You're about to go out there to 5,000 people. And this is what you do? You want my approval?
Wow.
So that was one, and I'll tell you the other one, and this was not long ago. So I opened for Julio Iglesias at the Chicago Theater, big, iconic, historic theater. And I got there, again, never met him. And I said to his manager, I said, I think I'm supposed to do 20 minutes. Is that correct? And the manager says, this is his tour manager. He says to me, I'll tell you what. He says, when you look on the side in the wings, and you see Mr. Iglesias standing there, you're done. That's what he said. And then he walked away. So now here's the thing, though. When you look at the side, there's no lights on the side of a stage. You've been on a stage. There's no lights on. It's called backstage. It's called, the wings. They don't have the wings of the stage lit up. So I'm spending my whole set. I mean, I've had the riot act read to me, and I'm spending my whole set not just trying to make these people laugh, a predominantly Hispanic audience, by the way, so that wasn't easy. But I'm the whole time I'm like, is that him? Is that him? Is that him? And finally I saw, and I'm looking at my watch. So I'm doing two things I shouldn't be doing. One, not focusing on the audience, and two, looking at my watch. Okay. Yeah, I'm really involved. I'm really engaged here. And at one point I just see a pair of very shiny shoes. Okay. That's, buff, spit polished. And I'm like, there can only be one guy that is wearing shoes like that. And it's gotta be him. And I looked at my watch. I'm like, well, even if it's not, I'm at about 20 minutes. And I got off stage and it was him. And that's as close as I got to him as well.
That's so smart. The shoes. Oh my God. Now I do assume you mean Julio Iglesias Sr.
Senior, yes. I actually also did a corporate gig with his son, Enrichment.
Oh my Lord. That's another situation. There's a beautiful man. Okay. Now, what is the weirdest reaction you've gotten from an audience member after a show? Like, did somebody take their bra off and throw it at you? Were their phone numbers thrown at you?
I don't think I'm really not that kind of a comedian, I think no. I can't. The only one that really stands out. It's not a good one either. I just this was when I'd written my first book and I was signing copies of it afterwards. But I'd kind of gotten into it with an audience of a bachelorette party, who any comedian will tell you those are the worst. Bachelorette parties are. I would rather go up against a bunch of bikers. I would rather.
What is that? What did they do to you guys?
Because they're not there to see a comedian. They're there to party. They might watch you for a few minutes.
Yeah.
But if you're not funny,
then
they just take the party and they turn their backs and they just do their own thing and they're all drinking and so forth. So I don't know why bachelorette parties think a comedy.
Why do they go to comedy?
I know.
Don't they belong on the party bus?
Yes. Go learn country line dance. Yeah, don't go someplace where you have to be quiet at a bachelorette party.
So crazy.
But anyway, she came up to me she just butted her way through the line of people who were waiting to buy a book, and she goes, "Hey, Mr. Comedian," she goes, "I thought you sucked."
Oh my God! What a biatch!
Yes,
Wow!
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. That is so. Let's see how long her marriage lasts.
Yeah, really, exactly.
Now, corporate lingo. Let's talk about that. Now, I can see where I know when I saw the Wendy's commercial, "Where's the beef?" Everyone in the world was saying, "Where's the beef?" You would try to incorporate it in everything you said. You were looking, you know how like in the office where he's always trying to say, "That's what she said," and he looked for any opportunity. I was looking for "Where's the beef?" Everybody else was too. Did you ever find yourself using corporate lingo in everyday life just for laughs?
Oh yeah, in the corporate events, I do. In fact, the joke that I say is one of the ways I set myself up when I explain. In one of my opening jokes that I do, I usually do it within the first 5 or 10 minutes. I say, if you think you're looking at a comedian, you're wrong. Comedians tell jokes. I am a corporate speaker, which means I work for people like you in business settings. So I say, I don't tell jokes. I initiate a project action plan by leveraging my core competencies, which enables me to tell best-in-class, well-positioned, out-of-the-box jokes, which forms a synergistic alliance, creates a paradigm shift, and at the end of the day enables me to humorously empower the entire enterprise. And that always gets a big laugh because I'm basically spewing their lingo at them.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Now, what about family fun within your family? How does your family react to your jokes about them? Are they more like "ha ha" or "oh no, not again"?
Yeah, a little of both. I think a little of both. I think even though I have 2 daughters, and even though Dad's a comedian, Dad's still a dad, which means Dad's weird. And Dad's embarrassing, and Dad shouldn't have said that. And I got a lot of that of them growing up. So I think deep down, I think they always knew I had a very interesting profession. But but it's not cool when you're a teenager. Let me tell you let me talk about my dad. You don't do that as a teenager. I think their friends were always interested in it.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't come from them.
What about comedy inspiration? Who are your biggest comedy influences? And did it ever make you laugh so hard that you said, "I'm questioning my career"? You know what I'm saying?
Could I ever? I'm never going to be as good as this.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think we all do. I mean, I think I'm sure professional athletes do that too. like
course.
I'm a professional.
But who are they?
The two that got me into the business were Steve Martin and David Letterman. I found Steve Martin. I was always interested in comedians, but this guy just came out of nowhere and was so different and just would do anything up there. And I found that to be very interesting, even though I was never, I could never do that. The fact that somebody could do that and people were latching onto that, I found to be very interesting. Letterman just reminded me, I heard my own voice in him. He's from the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest. He just was a guy that made it look so easy because he was just up there. Again, very self-deprecating, very sort of, what is going on with this? And I don't understand this. And I just loved his style. So those two growing up. These days, you mentioned Nate Bargatze. I think he's very funny. I like John Mulaney a lot. Again, another very clean comedian. If you look at the comedians that are selling out like arenas, like we're talking 15,000 seaters, it's the guys that still work clean. It's Bargatze, Mulaney, Jim Gaffigan, Jerry Seinfeld, Sebastian Maniscalco, to some extent, that still can do an entire show without. That's not saying everybody. Dave Chappelle will sell out, 15,000 seaters, and he's way more edgy. But I think mainstream, and I don't think saying you're mainstream is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing to say that you work mainstream. I think it's a good thing to say you work clean. Nobody has ever not hired me and said because you're too clean. I've never lost a job for being too clean.
No, I don't think so. Yeah,
maybe the one at the strip club.
Those two are not Steve Martin and Letterman. I just don't find them funny. It's not my type of humor. Yeah. I like Ellen DeGeneres. I love her. She was for a woman doing that type of comedy.
I did like her stand-up.
And Ricky Gervais. They're my two. Currently. And I can't think of anybody back in the day that old school, like real old school, because it's old school now. But I liked Ellen. I loved the guy, the red Jim. We were talking about him. He did the concert in the red leather suit.
Oh, Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy. I loved that. I loved his comedy.
How did you forget Eddie Murphy?
I know, because I'm so old now. I can't remember Eddie Murphy. And I loved Richard Pryor. And I loved, so I thought that I'm not into this real. I guess you got to be a cerebral person to really get into the cerebral comedy. But there is a girl. Oh, you probably know her name. I recently watched a documentary about her. She is so, I can't remember her name. Offbeat, bizarre. Very.
Not Maria Bamford.
Yes, that's who it is.
Maria Bamford.
Is she the one that has? She's bipolar. Yes.
Talks a lot about mental health.
Yeah. Exactly. And I was
She's got some great stuff.
Exactly. You knew right away. It could have been anyone in the world, and you knew who I was talking about. Very. I love her comedy.
I'll tell you I used to go see a lot of. When I started doing this, I was living in West Palm Beach, Florida, and there was a very good comedy club that used to get the AA acts that were on their way up. This was back in 1989, 88. So, Jerry Seinfeld and all.
Oh, yes.
Still playing this club. There was a guy named Richard Jenny, Jeni.
I've heard of him,
a very troubled individual who ended up taking his own life. But there was a guy who consistently, I've never seen anybody who could consistently make an audience laugh so hard that he would have to stop to let them catch their breath. He was that good. And
Richard Jenny was?
Richard Jenny. And he could do it with different material every night. Like I'd go see him and then I'd go see him the night after and it would be a completely different set. And the audience would still be just in tears. And there's a guy that I'm like, I don't care if I do this for a living. I will never be as good as that guy. Very sad. Him, and there were, unfortunately there were comedians. Mitch Hedberg, there's another one. Absolutely brilliant. One of the best writers in the world. Just unfortunately couldn't overcome his personal demons.
I just need to talk about demons. Lenny Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
I never really liked his comedy. I tried. I just couldn't get into him. But apparently he was huge.
Well, he was groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking. Yeah.
The things you didn't do back in the 60s.
Yeah, he was getting arrested and all kinds of stuff. I guess I had heard his name, but I became more familiar with him with the show that was on, was it HBO, or about the female comedian?
Oh, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yes, yeah. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah, because he was in that.
Yeah.
He was like her mentor.
Exactly. Yeah. Now I'm trying to figure out I still can't figure out who she was supposed to be representing, as I imagine it was a female comedian, but we can't figure out who she was.
Mm-hmm.
You know who?
Not really. No,
nobody
really don't.
knows.
Yeah.
Because there were female comedians that some say, oh no, it's fictional. There was never a female comedian that worked with Lenny Bruce or had that really. Well, of course, that's artistic licensing, but there must have been some. But then I have lots of friends who are like Tony Award winners on Broadway. They know all about the comedians that were in New York in the 60s and 70s. And they said, well, it must have been Carol Burnett. And I said, I don't think it was
I don't think so, yeah.
And then they said it was Phyllis Diller. I'm like, I don't feel it was Phyllis Diller. I don't know. Maybe it was a fictional person. I don't know. But I really love that show, and I'm upset it's gone. Okay, stage fright. Do you ever get stage fright, or do you just imagine the audience in that stupid in their underwear crap? Which is
no and no.
Or funny stuff.
No, I really don't. I don't. I get people say, do you ever get nervous before shows? No, I don't. I'm not saying I'm past that. I don't think you ever get past nerves. With me, it's more of a nervous energy. Like, let's get going. Especially when you do corporates. Corporates tend to not run on time. If you're the after dinner, oh God, if you're the you think they would, but like if you're the after dinner speaker, entertainment, dinner runs long, and the service isn't the way it's supposed to be, or you're on after a couple of corporate speeches, and one of them just drones on forever. So yeah, those, and then you're just backstage going.
Yeah. I would have thought they would always run on time.
No.
How do you handle hecklers? What's your go-to strategy for handling hecklers?
Well, you say the word heckler. That's it.
I didn't even know I was a heckler.
When people say, how do you handle hecklers? A heckler is somebody who is yelling back at you, who is like saying you suck, or is constantly interrupting. Believe it or not, that happens a lot less frequently than I think people think it does. What I think comedians what happens more is people just not paying attention, talking in the middle of your show, just tuning you out. For me anyway, that's happened more than I can probably count on. I've been doing this for over 25 years, and I can count on just two hands the number of times that people have yelled shit out. Like either offensive or just interrupted and wanted to be part of the show. So I'm not
a heckler, because when my girlfriend goes on and does comedy, I go, oh my God, I love that. Oh, do that. What about? Because I'm just remembering that she has so many funny bits, and when she would run it by me, I'm like, oh, do that. What did I get so excited? And she's like, Priscilla, you're heckling. I'm like, no, that's not.
Well, you're trying to. What you're doing, Priscilla? You're trying to steer the show in a different direction. That's
maybe
what you're doing. And I've had people do that. I've had people that are constantly like interrupting or trying to finish my jokes for me or something like that. And then they'll come up to me afterwards and they'll say, now admit, I helped you, right? You guys love that. No, we don't.
No.
And I always kind of try to make a joke out of it. I always say something like, yes, because if you weren't here, I wouldn't have anything to say. Never mind. I spent all day long writing stuff down, which I immediately forgot. So good thing you were here to rescue me.
That's
and that's
right.
kind of putting them in their place without telling them what an idiot they are.
Poor pigs.
I mean, when people do interrupt, at least it gives me something to work with. I am fine. And I think a lot of comedians are. I'm fine talking to people a little bit in the audience if they talk back, as long as they know that I'm in charge. It's like there's a limit here, because then it becomes you're trying to make it your show. It's not your show. It's my show. It's my show. I am letting you in it. I am letting you in it. I'm letting you be a part of it, but I'm also going to tell you when I'm ready for you not to be a part of it.
Or they're going to turn on you and make you the butt of the joke, which you don't want to do that.
No. Yeah.
Now, has your comedy style changed over the years? And what's the one joke you can't believe you used to tell?
That I can't believe I used to tell? Oh, God. Back when I first started, I was about as offensive. I mean, I did stuff. I mean, I started in South Florida. So I started in West Palm Beach, and oh my gosh, I used to do, there was an elderly population, and I used to do all sorts of jokes about elderly people. I mean, if this stuff was on video, just like any comic, and you know how, stuff's being resurrected from years ago and saying, you did that one joke back in 1987, and how horrifying it is, and we should never, ever, ever buy your albums or anything again, And I know there's a stuff like that out there, but back then it was a different time, So, but my material sort of reflects where I am in life. When my kids were little, I was doing all sorts of jokes about Nintendo and Xbox because they were playing video games, and I was trying to learn how to do it and so forth. And then, you get a little bit older and your kids become teenagers, and then, you're writing jokes about touring colleges and saving for college and things like that. And yet while you're doing that, you're always trying to, like I said earlier, come up with topics that will resonate with a good majority audience. So they have to be framed in that way. Like
right.
You've got to look at the audience and say, okay, what percent of this audience has kids? One of the things about corporate dates is most of those people do. They're family people. They go to work. They support their families. This is what they're doing. This is what they've chosen to do. So they travel. They have children. They go home. They spend a lot of time away. So do jokes about that. And now that my kids are out of the house, and again, I've been divorced, and I've sort of reinventing myself. So now I've written a ton of material about online dating, therapy, topics that all of a sudden have come to me based on where I am in my life.
All right, now your book, I'm thinking about, I'm an audience member, I'm listening to this interview, and I'm thinking about buying it, but what do you feel, what's going to push me over the edge to buy the book? Who is the target person?
I think the target person is people who maybe are struggling a little bit in life, who've had something happen to them that they think, am I ever going to be able to laugh again? Or am I ever going to be able to laugh at this? That's kind of how and I think people who are just maybe looking at their lives a little bit and saying, is there something else, or, reinventing themselves. That's kind of how I hawk the book, for lack of a better word, at the end of shows. I just say, if you're struggling, if you have come across a subject that you don't think is funny, this book is a chance to show that you can laugh at unfunny subjects. So that's, I think, and I think everybody can do that, can relate to that. You might not be able to relate to all the chapters in there, but I think you'll get a sense of my self-deprecating style and sort of sarcasm and so forth, which is always a big part of my
So this book is available on Amazon.com.
Correct.
And they also go to your website, gregschwim.com.
You can learn more about it there. Yeah.
Is it on Kindle?
It is on Kindle. It's also on Audible.
That's what I was wondering.
Listen. Yes.
Now, do you do it? Do you?
I narrated it, but here's the thing. Okay, I will let you know if somebody immediately so somebody bought a copy. So I read it, and that takes a hell of a long time to read your own book. And I edit it, and you got to you're stumbling, and then you got to go back and edit that out and start over. So
you wrote it. You don't have a ghostwriter. You wrote it yourself.
No, I wrote the whole thing. Wrote it, and I narrated it too.
Okay.
But anyway, so I finally got it up on Audible, which you got to go through all these, sound, make sure it's recorded in the right, the right decibel level or whatever. I finally get it approved, and somebody buys a copy, and they said to me, yeah, chapter 4, did you mean to start over 3 times? And I go, what?
What?
And then I went back and listened to it. I'm like, oh my God, I uploaded the wrong file. I uploaded a file where I made a mistake twice, and I just started the sentence again, and it's on there. And the thing about it, so I think that's the only one. So
you can't correct it? You can't?
Well, I can, but you have to take the book out of production. So I have to take it off of Audible. So I guess what I'm telling you is if your viewers really, I'm going to be doing that shortly. It'll go back up there eventually. But if your viewers and your listeners want to get the book on Audible now, go ahead. Just know that in chapter 4, at one point, you will hear me do a sentence and then go, damn it. And, and start over. But,
wow, they're going to think you're high. They're going to be smoking some ganja. But you know what? That could be a collector's item.
In a way it could, right. It's the outtake book.
You got to think about that. Oh, Connor Corrigan says, just joining in love, being back. What's the book called?
What's the book called? Connor, yes. Thank you for joining.
He's an aspiring comedian.
Oh, really? Connor, I'll talk you out of that. No.
And he lives in Chicago. You guys, can you mentor him?
I probably could. Turning gut punches into punchlines, a comedian's journey through cancer, divorce, and other hilarious stuff. That's the book, Connor. And if you go to my website, there's a link there to email me, and I would be more than happy to answer all your questions about comedy as well.
It's Greg Schwem, SCHWEM.com. Yes, Connor is in Chicago, and I actually think you guys know the same person because I met Connor through Rico, and Rico is a client of Beatrice Davis, and I met you through Beatrice Davis.
You did.
So it's a small world after all, people. But yeah, Connor is an aspiring comedian, and I was turning him on to people who actually, wait a minute, is he an aspiring comedian or a voiceover actor?
I don't know.
You know what? I think he does both, Greg. So Greg, Connor, if you're listening, Greg, we've been talking about, he has, if you go to his website, gregschwim.com, he has various programs that he offers to teach things, and it's program 1, 2, 3, and 4. So Connor, sweetheart, go to his website, and what tab is that under where you've got those programs?
I believe it's called programs, but those are not like classes. Those are my corporate speech.
Those are corporate
yes,
programs.
I'm not coming to Connor's house and delivering
No,
them.
Connor's not. But those are programs in case you want to supplement your income and take some business away from Greg. No, I'm just kidding. No, Connor's lovely. But yeah, he's a comedian. We've been having a wonderful time. He's a very successful corporate comedian as well as a stand-up comedian. Go to his website and check him out. We showed a clip from a cruise line of, did we say who that corporate client was? Was that for cruise?
Well,
Did you put that on?
the clip that you showed was from a celebrity cruise ship. That was my enrichment lecture.
Oh, okay. All right. So all of his clips are on YouTube under Greg Schwem, but we're actually going to play the last ones before we end our interview, which is going to be officially over soon because I got to get those short clips in there. Remember what we talked about? It's got to be under an hour and 2 hours. Okay. We're going to play, and this is going to be, we're going to close the show out, Greg, with this. So
All right.
we're going to end it with you, but just to set the audience up, if I can find the damn thing. Okay, so we're going to end the show with Greg, but to the outro, OUTRO, is going to be a TV interview with Greg, When Companies Lie. I love that. There's a comedy demo and a book promo. And I think I already did the state of comedy. But we got to have you come back on and tell you how your state of comedy is doing next year.
Yeah.
See how it's going. But I'm excited for you. You're starting a whole new life. You are 2025. It's going to rock.
Yes, it is. It already is.
If you come to LA to do a show, will you send us an invitation?
Of course. And I'm going to get your. I'm going to send you a book, an
autograph book, and I want you to write, Priscilla, you're hot and happening. Just like that somewhere.
All right.
But you wanted to ask any upcoming comedy shows in Chicago that you're doing.
Well, again, you just missed me. Headlining Zanies. I am going to be doing a small set at Second City on February 27th, I believe. It's a small room within the Second City building. So I'm going to be doing about 10 minutes there. But just keep watching, just keep reaching out, and I'm sure I'll find some way to come see you.
I think the guy Connor, I think he trained at Second City where you're going to be performing.
I'm sure I'll hear all about that.
Yeah, so I hope you guys connect, and that would be fantastic. Okay, Greg, everybody buy this book. Again, give me that title. Take me out with the title.
Yes, Turning Gut Punches into Punchlines, a comedian's journey through cancer, divorce, and other hilarious stuff.
What the hell? Everybody needs this book to start it off, right?
Yeah.
This is the first chapter of your year, people. Go on Amazon and get that book. Greg, thank you so much for coming on the show. I love that we're doing how are you doing standing up?
I'm doing great. I know.
With your stand-up desk?
I bought a stand-up desk yesterday, and yes, I did this whole thing stand-up. First stand-up podcast I've done. Love it.
First one. I got it. Yes. Okay, so we are going to take you out with some clips from Greg. You can stay and watch them, Greg, if you want. But please go to his website, gregschwem.com. All social media, Greg Schwem. Thank you, Greg.
My pleasure. Have a great evening, Priscilla. Stay safe.
Bye.
I can explain the rules of pickleball. I will just tell you how it starts. It starts with 4 people meeting at the net and then revealing what physical ailment.
Oh my goodness, I feel like I need more of that because the pickleball jokes can go on for days. Our next guest, Greg Schwem, performs for companies across the country, landing him on Sirius Radio, Comedy Central, and sharing the concert stage with the likes of Celine Dion and Keith Urban. And Greg is here right now. He's performing Monday, January 13th at Zanies Comedy Club in Chicago. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Nice to be here, Anita.
Okay, there's a lot to talk about with you, you know. So let's start here. When we say a corporate comedian, I hear dollar signs, but what does it mean?
It means that I spend most of my time doing presentations for big Fortune 500 companies at business conferences and conventions around the country.
Get them to loosen up a little?
Yes. Not an easy task, but I've performed for Microsoft and Cisco and McDonald's and a lot of big Chicago area organizations,
If you're
too.
like me, I'm guessing that you probably vetted this ship before you got on, right? You went to the website.
right? And you took a look at it, right? And I did the same thing. And I will say, kudos to Holland America, because what you saw on that website is pretty much what you get. And that's great, because a lot of times you can tell when companies are lying based on the photos that they put on their website. I will give you a good example. I know there's some people from Florida here. I just did a show at the Waldorf Astoria in Orlando, Florida. Very nice hotel. So I get on the website to look at the hotel, and this picture's up there. Now take a look at that. That's obviously a family returning from Disney World. Now, you know they're lying, right? You know why? Because nobody looks like that returning from Disney World. Especially the dads. You want to see a typical dad at the end of the day at Disney World? There you go, right there. That was shot at Disney World.
Hi everybody, it's Greg Schwem. Well, the sun is rising here in my hometown of Chicago, which makes this the perfect location to announce the release of my latest book, Turning Gut Punches into Punchlines, a comedian's journey through cancer, divorce, and other hilarious stuff. As the title implies, it's been a rather challenging 18 months for me, and you're probably thinking, oh, Greg, did you write another one of those weepy, woe is me, self-serving, self-help books? No, just the opposite. You see, for the past 25 years, I've been preaching to people all over the world from stages that it is possible to find humor in any situation, even the toughest situations. But I've never actually had to live that until now. So this book is about finding happiness and your best self by embracing new experiences, by taking an interest in people other than yourself, by being the least interesting person in the room. You can do all of that without AI, by the way, and laughing the entire time. Don't believe that's possible? Well, then you definitely don't want to read the chapter about online dating at my age, or what it's like to work in an Amazon warehouse, or sit naked in a sauna in Finland, the world's happiest country. Okay, put that vision out of your head. Pick up a copy on Amazon. There's a link in this post, and if you like it, do me a favor. Leave me a review on Amazon or Goodreads. Keep living, and most importantly, keep laughing.
You're listening to Question Reality with Priscilla Leona.